rich people hand out full-size chocolate bars. That's the myth instilled in us by the older generations of trick-or-treaters. Modern Halloween candy is pitifully small, but it was far worse in the 80s. Chalky Popeyes cigarettes, chocolate with that white powdery coating, and hard taffy seemingly designed to remove fillings. The standard offerings of the day. Naturally, getting a full pillowcase of the expensive corner store variety of chocolate bars seemed like an urban myth. Lots of people talked about it, but no one personally had the experience. Except maybe for Jeremy Culver, but he was a well-known liar. He said his uncle was Hulk Hogan. Additionally, the setup of our town came with a barrier to testing the full-size chocolate bar myth. Rich folks essentially lived in another town, north of the ordinary tourist trap of Bridal Veil Lake. The houses there were far apart, and separated by pretty wild forests and fields belonging to both farms and wineries. Another belief spoke of the danger in crossing such properties. Farmers put rock salt in their shotguns. It apparently wouldn't kill you, but would cause significant pain and possible scarring. The real risk, however, is that one might go out there and the legend would be untrue. You'd walk away with far less of the subpar candy you'd always counted on. Or none at all. Don't get me wrong. We still wanted to eat the candy. These challenges and prospects became less daunting, however, because of the age restriction bylaw in Bridal Veil Lake. There are still a few places in Canada, Bathurst, New Brunswick for one, and the States that forbids kids over 12 or 14 from trick-or-treating. Now, I have no idea how this law would be enforced, and in practice, I'm sure lots of kids continue trick-or-treating. Most households, including mine unfortunately, respected the age limit. Having just turned 14 the previous June, this Halloween would be my last as a trick-or-treater. In theory, it'd also be the last for my friends, Nathan and Matt. It probably really would be for Nathan. His parents were close with mine. Matt came from a single-parent home, and he pretty much did whatever he wanted. He'd started smoking at 11, for instance, and didn't hide the fact from adults who certainly did not approve. In any case, I suggested the following proposal a week before Halloween for their consideration. What if we finally took the risk, went north, and saw for ourselves if full-size chocolate bars were dispensed by the wealthy? If true, we'd not only get a whole sack of good candy, but we'd also be able to confirm for the next generation of trick-or-treaters that a better quality of life existed, in terms of candy. It would literally spark a new migration pattern on this most holy of nights. We'll be heroes, I told the others. You're a nerd, Matt replied. Nathan looked at his hands as if trying to work out a math problem. But I want candy. If we go out there and they don't have any? I affected my best "are you kidding" face for the simple boy. They're rich, Nathan. They'll have some candy. Plus, hardly anyone goes out there, so they'll probably give us a lot all at once. Nathan's eyes, like that of an innocent doe, lit up. He smiled. I had him. Matt wagged an unlit cigarette at me. Or they'll have none, because no one trick-or-treats out there. The glitter in Nathan's eyes quickly faded, and his face turned to dismay. Ryan? He asked me. Is that possible? This, I emphasized, will be our last Halloween. Next year and every year after, we'll be handing out candy at best. You get that, right? Nathan looked like he might cry. Our families weren't rich. Money for variety store candy was rare and reserved for birthdays, Christmas, Easter, and, of course, Halloween. Matt gripped his shoulder. I'll buy you all the candy you want on November 1st if this doesn't pan out, okay? You will? How? With a practiced flick, Matt struck a flame with a Zippo off his blue jeans. "I'll quit smoking," he mouthed, as he inhaled and brought ember to the tip of the cigarette between his lips. Nathan didn't catch the wink directed at me. Buying cigarettes at the age of 14 was, of course, illegal. It wasn't hard to find a store willing to sell to underage vendors. But of us three, Matt was the poorest. He stole packs from the old cigarette vending machine at the Swiss Chalet on James Street. With just a little shake, the already vintage machine would cough up a pack or two. No one working there ever bothered him, because he'd bring in the newspaper left outside and pretend to pay. So, the point is, he wouldn't be buying Nathan anything on November 1st. There would be plenty of candy for Nathan if need be, but it wouldn't be paid for. I didn't like it. Stealing was wrong, and I hated that he did it without remorse. I hated more that I didn't have the courage to tell him to knock it off, or at least not do it when I was around. More than anything, though, I hated myself for smiling after his wink, because I needed his support to go north on our last Halloween as children. At 15, we'd still be unable to vote, drink, drive, or go to war. But we'd never again put on a costume, strip the case from our pillows, and hold them out to strangers expectantly. That sure seemed like the first threshold of adulthood to me. We spent the next week seeking out and studying road maps of the area. I determined the distance and the time it would take to get there. All agreed we'd have to set out from the school instead of going home. Nathan and I told our parents we would be going to Matt's for supper. Matt told his mother nothing, because she wouldn't be home anyway. I made sandwiches, Nathan brought juice boxes, and Matt? Nothing but cigarettes, a Zippo, and a ski mask. He was being a robber for Halloween, you see. To be fair, that existed as one of two options. The other was a pirate because it required little in the way of costuming. A cheap plastic sword, an eye patch, and a bandana. Guess what Nathan and I went out as? Gray skies gave way to darker shades of gray, and the promise of a storm before the end of the night. We'd studied road maps, but not bothered with the weather forecast. When you're a kid, holding back the rain with hope seems like a natural ability. I closed my eyes and willed the veil of water to hold until at least midnight. Maybe I prayed to God, too, though I had no religious belief. I suppose I would have made a deal with any and all entities, if it allowed me to find out the truth about rich people and full-size chocolate bars. If that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. Consider, however, the lack of joy for the mildly impoverished in the 80s. We had no Nintendos or Commodore 64s. Nathan had the latter briefly. Someone, Matt I suspect, threw up on the keyboard and hid it in the closet. No replacement could presumably be afforded because none came. Nathan left it in the closet. We played baseball without gloves. Hockey, a Canadian religion, cost $1,000 a year. We had sticks, a tennis ball, and a street. The day we got a net for Christmas was unreal, let me tell you. In a nutshell, were we to return with the full-size chocolate of legend, we'd be happy instead of content or vaguely disappointed. Even as a kid, I knew there was something wrong with the ritual we'd been promised. Free candy, sure, but not quite the same as the good stuff we occasionally got and loved on the odd Saturday when Mom had too much to drink and wanted a bag of barbecue chips. She'd give whatever bill she had, and that meant leftover money for treats. I guess what I'm trying to impart is that this mattered to us. Even Matt. Even though he tried to pretend it didn't. As he smoked and grinned at Nathan, whom he encouraged with ideal speculation as to what we would find. Reese's peanut butter cups and caramels, he spouted. That's what I'm after. Nathan tripped over the edge of the sidewalk and caught himself. He flipped his eye patch onto his forehead and said, "You think they'll have Mr. Biggs? That's my favorite. It's big. Matt smiled and touched Nathan's cheek with surprising tenderness. If they don't, I'll get you tons tomorrow, okay? Yeah, okay. Nathan looked ahead, excited and enthused. Even if we lost, he won. I rolled my eyes. Only Matt caught it. He stuck out his tongue. We came to one of the bridges leaping over the gorge forest. There were a few houses, but they were already dark, though it couldn't be 5 o'clock yet. Tim Hortons had been mostly built near the side of the bridge, but hadn't yet been completed. We sat on the dusty curb in the parking lot and ate the sandwiches I had provided. The juice boxes we consumed while we crossed the threshold from Bridal Veil Lake, the way we knew it, to the north end, which didn't truly begin there, if we're speaking about the rich part of town. A bingo hall, guarded by heavily lidded smokers, emerged from the left. Desperate, irritated adults stared at us from across the sprawl of an almost deserted parking lot. How did they all get there? Used car dealerships abounded. A woman in a short skirt sat inside a slightly tinted window of one such business. She stared, and I think it hurt her to see us, though I'm not sure why. At last, we came to Stone Road, a final boundary before the buildings gave way to an old forest, purposely left intact to keep the lower classes at bay. The three of us, instinctively, stopped at the intersection where a gas station and a diner remained open to remind us of the existence of civilization. I had a strong desire to go into the diner. I'm not sure why. Maybe because the way ahead looked so dark and lacked sidewalks. If we veered left, there'd likely be ordinary homes with their ordinary candy. We could still turn back. It was Nathan that started walking first. Matt tossed the stub of a cigarette and gave me a shrug like he could read my mind. Oh well, I guess we're doing this, he seemed to say. The considerably large trees were kept at bay by a treacherous ditch on either side of the road. Streetlights punctuated vast stretches of darkness. I found myself staring at the light and being totally blinded to the immediate vicinity. At times, my sneakers kicked dust and stone, and at others, nothing at all. We drifted into the road without knowing it, watching the light and the warmth of our breath express into the cold air. Halloween in the 80s, in Canada, often came with frigid temperatures. We were lucky it didn't snow. I recalled the maps. If we pressed on, we'd come to another intersection where I expected houses would be present. The maps we'd looked at didn't have anything about residences, but why else would there be roads unless there were people out here? Shit, Matt said, before I could exclaim something similar. We had arrived at the first crossroads and found not so much. Fields extended forward, vineyards on either side, and I couldn't see a house anywhere. Oh, Nathan said, clutching his pillow sack. Oh no. Calm down, I told him. This doesn't mean a thing. It's still early. We've still got time. Which way now? Matt asked. He lit up another cigarette. Always the dramatist. I closed my eyes and envisioned the maps. Left. We go left. If we go straight, we'll eventually end up in the touristy part. I don't know what's there, but it isn't likely to be people handing out candy. Of course, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I just assumed a road would lead to houses. Uh-huh, Matt said, before approaching the nearest stop sign with a folding knife. What is that? Nathan asked. A knife? Why'd you bring a knife, Matt? He puffed his cigarette like a tobacco veteran. No hands. As he etched an upside-down cross on the red of the stop sign. What's he doing, Ryan? Why'd he do that? I never liked to reveal ignorance to Matt. He always responded to my questions with a joke. Besides, Matt could hear just fine. "Marking, in case we get lost," he finally said, retrieving his dropped pillowcase from the road. "Come on, get moving. For tomorrow, we're breaking the law." He howled like a wolf, which made Nathan laugh nervously. I shook my head. Come on. Within a few minutes of walking, the trees ended. Cultivated rows of wine grapes dominated for miles, with only a single house in sight. The lights were on, however, and that made it open to trick-or-treaters. Unlit jack-o'-lanterns had been clustered haphazardly by the closed porch. To get there, we followed a sweeping dirt driveway that seemed scooped from the earth by a giant. "I don't know, Ryan," Nathan stammered. I don't know." Always the older brother, the adult, Matt slung an arm over Nathan's shoulder. "We've come this far. Worst case scenario, they don't have any candy." A dog began to bark. We all flinched. Off to the side of the house, a kennel held several canine shadows. Most of them watched. Only one aggressively objected to our approach. Matt gently put himself between the distant dogs and Nathan. I walked behind them both. We mounted the steps and didn't notice the old man in the rocking chair behind the screen door until it was too late. "Boo!" he shrieked, and we all fell apart. Nathan screamed. Matt flailed for his knife. Thankfully, he didn't find it. For my part, I fell on my ass and bit my tongue. The old man laughed so hard it triggered a fit of coughing. "Happy Halloween," he wheezed. "You're the first to come by tonight. I wasn't sure there'd be any. Last year we only got the Corvo kids. I think they're too old now." He pushed open the screen door and released a vapor of smoke and hard liquor. Nathan and Matt backed away to avoid being pushed off the stoop. "You don't look familiar to me. Where do you boys live?" "Nearby," Matt challenged him. Thankfully, he'd wisely not lit up another cigarette. The old man stared, uncertain, but eventually pursed his lips and nodded with a flick of his brow. "All right, I meant no offense. It's just a question." He reached down beside his rocking chair and found a plastic pumpkin. Within, his gnarled hand withdrew. Oh, glorious, the treasure! A mitt full of O. Henry bars. Both Matt and I looked to Nathan. That's where the joy would be found. His eyes stretched wide, but not as much as a smile. "Might as well take a few," the old man said. "Doubt the Corvos are coming." At least a dozen each we received into our humble pillowcases. "Happy Halloween, boys," he concluded, before closing the screen door and easing himself back into his rocking chair. "Happy Halloween," I told him, vindicated and relieved. Nathan appeared on the verge of tears. O. Henry bars weren't his favorite, but they were proof enough of the possibilities ahead. The house didn't even appear all that fancy. Aside from the sprawling property and the barns, it could have sat within our ordinary neighborhood, if it didn't have the closed-in porch. We speed-walked to the end of the driveway, confronted by the road again. "Well?" I asked them. Nathan beamed. "It's true." "It's one house," Matt countered, "and I don't see any more." The flicker in Nathan's joyous expression impacted us both. "It's still early," I said. I held up the pillowcase. "This is a good sign." Matt nodded. Not convinced, obviously, but nodding nonetheless, for Nathan's sake. "Yeah, you're right." He winked at Nathan. "Let's go." Once again, he clapped a heavy hand on the other boy's shoulder and prodded him down the road. I don't know if either of them noticed the increasing wind and the descending temperature. I could see my breath, and so could they. Pathetic fallacy is a concept taught by English teachers, and we were hardly a few months into grade 9, so we didn't know. And if we did, we wouldn't have paid any mind to it. We'd gotten full-size chocolate already. The next home had to be nearby. The road rose and fell, and in the gloom, it taunted us with the exactness of its distance. At some point, I became aware of how many steps it would take to descend a low and mount a high. Why not build the road level and straight? I'm far older now, and I still don't understand. Not that I've looked into it or care to. It's trivial compared to all the rest. "Look," Nathan said. "I think I see another house." I don't know how long we've been walking. I had a watch, but it had been broken in a fight at school. I still wore it out of respect. My grandfather was a veteran. Just a streetlight, Matt determined. Nevertheless, we trudged up to it as it was the only sign of civilization. "What do we do?" Nathan asked, almost frantic. I refrained from pointing out that we'd already come out ahead, even if we never got to any other chocolate bars. Matt smoked and waited, resigning the decision-making process to me. We held each other's gaze while I spoke. "Don't worry. Matt's gonna buy you all the candy you want tomorrow, remember?" Matt smirked and nodded slowly. "That's right, kid. Come on. We should probably head back anyway. Maybe we can hit up that old guy again. I'm sure he's got a ton left." The idea had merit, but I likely don't have to write what I preferred to have happen. It wasn't what did happen, in any case. The music began quietly, softly. A tinkling spring so far away it could be denied as the product of imagination. But then, "What is that?" Nathan whispered, afraid for some reason of being heard. "Shh," Matt hissed. "Listen." Subtly, the volume increased. And, again, I doubted it had really been quiet in the first place. "It sounds like my grandma's jewelry box," I said. "When you open it, there's a little ballerina that spins and—" "Quiet," Matt advised. He walked into the nearest ditch and crouched. We followed suit. "It could be a car or something. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be passed by those trying to creep us out right now." Do you mean they could hurt us?" Nathan held his head, chin against his chest. He only lived in fear, it seemed. I wondered if he'd ever had an unspoiled joy in his life. "More like pranksters," I said. "Egg throwers." Matt shrugged. "Yeah, sure. Pranks." But he didn't sound as if he believed it. "What's up with you?" I asked him. "Nothing. It's just, I don't know. Weird." My turn to smirk. "You're afraid, aren't you?" To take pleasure in another's fear is pathetic and mean. Yet, that's just what I did. Nathan peeked through his fingers incredulously. How could Matt, fearless, rebellious Matt, who did whatever the hell he wanted, be afraid? And if he was, then what did that mean he should be? "It's just some music," I said with the most smugness I could manage. An idea warmed out of my stupid brain next. "It's kinda creepy music, right? I bet there's a house playing it and—" Nathan stood straight up and interrupted. "They could have candy." I nodded along. "Maybe they're even having a party or put up crazy decorations?" To be clear, I wasn't all that excited by these notions. I mostly just wanted to find another place with full-size chocolate bars. I don't even know why. Vague ideas of returning with a legendary haul wouldn't likely impress any high school kids. Not even the ones my age. The fact that I thought it might could explain my low status on the social ladder. I'd not admit that for a good 30 years. I wasn't well liked because I wasn't all that likable. A simple tale. Should we follow it? Nathan asked, both apprehensive and eager. No, Matt said bluntly. It's not a good idea. Why? 'Cause you're scared? He flinched, but recovered. Because that music is coming from over there somewhere. He pointed beyond a wire fence to some rough country, a field left to the wild for years. In the small light we had, I could make out a dirt road, long forgotten. Its trajectory led into the fence itself, and a grouping of sporadic, squat pines the other way. I see a road, I countered. Nathan flapped his hands. I see it too. It's right there. Guys, Matt said with a sigh. There's no light that way. It could lead right into a farmer's place. Do you want to get shot? Over some candy? He crossed his arms. Don't be a coward, I snapped, daring to get in his face. A dark look crossed his features, one that could be read under the singular streetlight. Quickly, I took a step back and cleared my throat. The music has to be close. Listen, it's probably right over... Where? I couldn't see. It's the streetlight. It's making it so our eyes won't adjust. Come on, Matt. It's our last Halloween, remember? Please, Nathan added, and he appeared so hopeless for a moment that I wondered what troubled thoughts ran through his mind. I'm sure it was this desperate expression that convinced Matt to go. I had made my adversarial position clear. Fine. He rushed up the other end of the ditch and the short way over mud and grass to the fence. There, he began mashing the wire down with his foot. We watched, Nathan and I, listening to the jewelry box music accompany the rage of a 14-year-old against a barrier he had no desire to cross. When it was done, he gestured for us to proceed with both hands and a slight bow. He'd worked up a sweat and his hair stuck up. The ski mask he'd stuffed into his front pocket was gone, dropped somewhere behind and unknown. Matt appeared wild and angry, and, worst of all, trapped. For the smallest moment, his expression made me hesitate. But then a tug on my arm, Nathan, broke the spell of reason. I hope there's a party, Nathan cried, stumbling once as he crossed the threshold. I ignored Matt's glare as I went, apprehension growing in time, with the tinkling notes filling the air. He moved ahead, and only then did I realize I'd stopped dead at the edge of darkness. The idea that I'd made a mistake had no chance against the notion of acknowledging Matt's judgment as correct. I'd be under his thumb forever. I began to walk, and Nathan followed. To my surprise, the talk of eyes adjusting away from the streetlight came true. I could see the slightly less rough edges of the forgotten road, and the outlines of rocks and stunted trees along the way. The ground swelled gently and fell just as easily into an infantile valley. Fog approached from the left, a thick wall that choked the vision from our eyes. It came so suddenly, like in a horror movie. The jewelry box music continued all the while. I heard Nathan whimper and Matt swear. This couldn't be real. It had to be a Halloween prank. We were on TV. The fog began to settle, descending slowly to our knees, revealing 3 lost boys. I bent down and searched blindly for something, anything to defend myself with. What's he doing? Nathan asked. Matt? What's he... Calm down. He's scared, that's all. My hand had found a stick. It felt sturdy enough. Once more, we locked eyes, I think. It was too dark to be sure. I caught the glint of starlight reflecting off his folding knife. I'm scared. You're the one with the knife. And you weren't just searching for a weapon? I'd made the choice to leave the stick. No, I said flatly. What were you doing? He challenged again. Feeling the road? I lied, pretty terribly. Fortunately, the explanation I conjured made some kind of sense. I wanted to see if I could tell if people came through here often. Matt waved his arms and that knife, another gesture meant to continue. Oh, and? I turned away. I don't know, I said too quietly. What was that? He snapped. I rounded on him, suddenly furious. I said, I think so. Yeah, I think probably. It's a shortcut or something. The second lie is born of the first, and is always more regrettable. Bullshit, Matt accused. This is nuts. We should go back. Go back? Nathan asked, as if the idea threatened his very reason for living. Matt, Ryan wouldn't lie. Guys, we've been friends since before kindergarten. Come on, stop. He nodded. Stop fighting. The stutter gave his words less impact, but to hear him give a command at all was pretty astonishing. Despite the dark, I could see Matt smile. Look at you, my boy. He folded the knife and stuck it in the back pocket before going in for a hug with Nathan. Nathan chuckled and pushed him off. Stop it. Matt brought the flame from his Zippo and carefully placed a cigarette between his teeth, which he showed off by grinning like a goof. For a moment, the fire blinded us to everything else but his face. He inhaled and said, Fine, fuck it, let's go. But that was easier said than done. Even the dull glow of the streetlight could no longer be found. Our initial steps became stumbling, and soon we were clinging together. The grouping of pine trees, small enough to suit Christmas, tall enough to be a barrier, thickened. Waves of needles scratched my face. Branches groped and held us back. Matt took the lead and pushed through, towing us along, blind leading the blind. I lost all sense of direction. I'm sure they did too. The music became the sole beacon in the night of what began to feel like an endless Halloween. I lost track of how long we wandered. Volume increasing, decreasing. That's all we had to suggest an arrival at something other than being lost. So, naturally, we followed. What choice remained? In the cover of the trees, the air and the labor over uneven terrain pulled sweat from our pores. A mixture of Nathan's body odor and Matt's cigarettes assaulted my nose. Revulsion and sickness made me dizzy. I hated them both. Not just then, always, because they were my friends by class and circumstance, and I wasn't satisfied with my lot. If I'd been born to a rich family, I'd be the one playing the music, handing out the full-size chocolate bars. Someone else would be stupidly wandering with fools who happened to live close by. Strange ideas came to me. Matt walked ahead. He held my hand against his shoulder. I could reach the knife in his back pocket. Without warning, the cursed Christmas trees ended. My sneaker stepped onto firm ground. We'd been walking for so long on unnatural, untended earth, I didn't understand where we stood. Look, Matt whispered. Another light peeked from behind a row of far taller pines. These trees were different, planted with a plan and care, and resources none of us could understand. Each one had been trimmed and trained to form a low roof, branches laced like monstrous fingers. The jewelry box music, so loud, hurt our ears. We covered them and stumbled forward, lopsided by the pillowcases dangling from the crooks of our elbows. We crouched because the roof wouldn't allow us to stand up straight. Nathan began to crawl first because it was quicker. Matt and I followed suit. And within a moment or two, our noses came to an ordinary shadow box fence, boards alternating to create the illusion of solidity if viewed head-on. From an angle, however, I could see through the spaces to the other side. I'm not sure what the others did or what they saw. I lost track. Crawling had made it too difficult to continue covering my ears. The intensity of the music made it impossible to think clearly. My backyard had the same kind of fence, and I'd been peeking through it to the neighbors for most of my life. With my capacity for reasoning spent, instinct took over. I did as I always did with a shadow box fence. I looked through the gap, and there, it, I don't honestly know. A being, something vaguely human and conveying or wishing to convey a feminine gender, I think, wore a white dress or nightgown. She stood a good distance away, maybe half a football field, on cut grass with a large, silent homestead behind her. I only saw her, for a second, because whatever it was, turned, crouched slightly, and touched something nearby on a chair. The unknown source of light extinguished, and the music ceased at once. Unbearable silence followed in an impossibly muted world. It had been windy a few minutes ago, hadn't it? I couldn't hear my own breath. But I heard the grass hiss briefly on the other side of that fence. A quick, singular step. Then another. Then two. Then three. Then too many to count. Dead needles tortured my palms as I discovered the ground moving beneath me. I was crawling again, but away. Gasping, sobbing, I soon realized the oppressive quiet had ended. So low to the ground, I came to the hard, unfamiliar surface and saw the yellow paint of a divisive line on a country road. We'd crossed an actual road when we left the little trees, and didn't know it. We walked straight because of the music and the light. I stood up and fell down again. My legs were shaking so hard. I pleaded with my body. We have to get away. That thing is coming. The second attempt to run went better. Though slow at first, I picked up speed and didn't stop until arriving at an intersection with street lights and a house nearby. Row upon row, grapevines grow. A sweeping dirt road arrived at a screened porch. No one sat in the rocking chair now. I'd found the first and only house we'd come upon while trick-or-treating. Instead of knocking, I opened the porch door and went inside. I sat at first for a moment, and then curled up into the fetal position, thinking if I could just sleep, then I'd wake up from the nightmare of its face. A pale, lifeless thing with eyes so dark they radiated with a kind of visual echo that pulled light into facial crevices so endless they couldn't be called human. It smiled. I had never seen it. There had been nothing to see. Not enough time. Yet, there it was, stamped on the inside of my eyelids. Each tooth appeared different. Different sizes, different colors, different levels of decay. Like they were stolen and jammed painfully into a swollen, infected set of gums. that had never been hers. Its either. My eyes shot open, and there she lay beside me. I shrieked and struck and kicked ineffectually. The dream where you want to fight or run, but your body lacks the strength to move. Ryan! Ryan! Hey! It's me! Hey! Stop! Strong hands gripped my wrists, and legs wrapped around mine. She had me. She did. If I closed my eyes, she did. So I held them open. And eventually, after an eternity, the shadow adjusted. Nathan breathed his bad, familiar, wonderful breath in my face. He looked scared. When he blinked, it seemed involuntary, a flutter, before his lips and jaw tightened while his nostrils flared. Him too, then. And now we were the same, because we'd both not seen it. Yet there she was, all the same. Something had got us. His trembling vibrated my limbs. We parted and moved into a cross-legged position. We were too shaken to speak. He sadly gestured to our 3 pillowcases. He'd managed to hold on to the loot. I suppose he thought I still cared about Candy. Perhaps he thought if I did, then he would too. I shook my head. A loop and hook had been screwed into the pine frame of the screen door. I secured it. Nathan and I put our backs against the brick wall on either side of the front door to the house. We waited for Matt. Thoughts of sleep and going home became ridiculous. She would never allow either of those ideas ever again. Oh, certainly, we'd rest and close our eyes and return to our beds. But nothing would ever be the same, or as good again. The sun on November 1st came around 7. Matt never did. Without speaking, Nathan and I left the porch. He brought the pillowcases of candy. I'm not sure why. Our frosted breath contributed to the growing mist in the air. It, waited behind us. I could feel her presence, because she wanted us to know. Don't look back, Nathan. Whatever you do, don't look back. These were the first words I'd spoken since the fence and the extinguishing of the light. Talking was hard. My tongue felt heavy, my mouth foreign. The upside-down cross on the stop sign accused us of treachery. In my peripheral vision, I saw Nathan nod and his eyelids rapidly blink. He saw her when he shut them. Nathan stared intensely and whimpered as we left behind the rich part of town, one agonizing step at a time. We passed the diner, the bingo hall, and arrived at more familiar neighborhoods. All the while, we didn't talk. And when I came to my house, I left Nathan, who didn't seem to notice. I went inside. My parents were asleep with the TV on in the living room. I went upstairs and sat on the edge of my bed until 10. The day went by without incident, and then another. I slept a little then, and didn't dream of her. Only by the 3rd evening had his presence been missed. Matt's missing, my mother told me. I didn't answer her. Do you know anything? Did he say he was going to run away? The truth was ineffable. What could I say? Ryan, she insisted. I shook my head. She left. Police came to the conclusion that Matt had, in fact, run away. I remember seeing his mom on her porch, having a cigarette and reading a romance novel. Matt had only been gone a week. She seemed relaxed, relieved even. I hated her the way I thought Matt would have. Nathan eventually started speaking to me again. I left the candy in the street that night, he said, right in front of my house. It was gone by morning. I nodded. That had been the prudent thing to do. She's in my dreams, Ryan, he said. And yours, too. Oh? I haven't... He stood up. She's there. You'll see. And then he left. We drifted apart not long after that. I found out what he meant the following October. Regular sleep had returned by then. And dreams. Matt sat in the cafeteria of our school. Nobody else was around, and the wired glass appeared murky, like thick smoke swirled on the other side. Shadows passed by occasionally. Some pressed their hands against the windows. Hi, Matt, I said. Hi. Are you mad? He looked up from the table and smiled. Not at all. His back arched backwards into a bridge, while his eyes rolled back and his mouth hung open. Sit, he said, but it wasn't him. She'd finally appeared. Nathan had been right. She'd been here the whole time. I had no choice. Have no choice. I sat on my friend's stomach, using him like a bench, and waited for the jewelry box music to resume. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.